You're watching UATV News. My name is Ina Kosinska. Good evening. The Normandy format meeting has been held in Berlin. According to the head of Ukraine's president's office, Andriy Yermak, the main topics were the steps aimed to keep the ceasefire in Donbas, new points of disengagement of forces, opening of new entry-exit checkpoints, demining of the territories, and the next release of the detained persons.
Ukraine has done everything to fulfill the agreements of the last year's summit of the Normandy 4 leaders in Paris. For each paragraph, we provided our compromise proposals. Now the time for firm actions and concrete steps has come. It's time for the next Normandy format leaders summit.
Joint efforts aimed to reach peaceful settlement of the situation in Donbas were discussed by the President of Ukraine and the current head of the OSCE, the Prime Minister of Albania. Rama supported the input of the Ukrainian side into bringing peace in Donbas and called the steps very courageous. Volodymyr Zelensky focused the attention on violations of agreements on the part of illegal armed groups. In particular, he spoke about the shelling of Ukrainian positions on September 6th and 10th.
Yesterday, literally during my telephone conversation with Chancellor Angela Merkel, the militants opened fire on Ukrainian positions near the village of Shumy, in the area where the meeting of GCCC and OSCE representatives was to take place. And the difference between these shots, in contrast to previous firing, was these ones were aimed. We do not want a new escalation. Since on September 6, as a result of the provocation of the illegal armed groups, we have already suffered losses. One serviceman of the Ukrainian armed force was killed and another wounded, Volodymyr Zelensky said.
A dramatic rise in the number of COVID-19 infections and a new anti-record. Over the past day, 3,144 cases have been registered in Ukraine. 53 people died due to complications. Since the beginning of the pandemic, more than 148,000 Ukrainians have already come down to the deadly virus. This was announced by the Minister of Health, Maxim Stepanov. Today, the official has been visiting Chernihiv on a working trip. In this region, the number of patients with COVID-19 is growing rapidly. And starting the next week, the red zone is due to expand to the region. In the morning before the briefing, the minister inspected the local market.
Mainly, only 70–80% of vendors wore their mask on their chin, at the very best. The rest didn't have it at all. Very few people are wearing masks.
Scientists have put on pause the trials of the Oxford coronavirus vaccine AstraZeneca, which is among the world's most promising ones, despite the fact that today more than 28 million people are infected with COVID-19 globally. About the future of the research in our next report.
The AstraZeneca company is the largest British drug manufacturer. The reason for the suspension of vaccine trials is the illness of a volunteer. A person showed signs of spinal cord inflammation.
Absolutely clear that safety comes first with the vaccine. So there's been a pause while they investigate an incident. And this has happened before, and then the pause has been lifted. But it just shows how much of an emphasis we put on the safety of the vaccine, even though, of course, we're all desperate to see it work.
The vaccine had been clinically tested in Brazil, South Africa and the United Kingdom. A 27-year-old South African, a participant of the experiment, does not regret agreeing to it.
I wanted to be part of the solution. I wanted to serve the world because this thing is destroying people. People have their views and opinions, but me, I would say the vaccine is a good thing. It can save the world. If it might happen, it can work. It's an opportunity to save the world.
AstraZeneca was one of the first companies to announce the success of large-scale trials of a vaccine against COVID-19. The drug is now in the third stage of testing. The trials are attended by 30,000 volunteers. By the end of the year, the company is going to produce up to 100 million doses of vaccine. Ksenia Bugay, UATV News.
19 years ago, the world's largest terrorist attack happened. Terrorists hijacked 4 passenger flights in the United States. 2 of them crashed into the towers of the World Trade Center in Midtown of New York. The third one hit the Pentagon building. The 4th liner crashed in Pennsylvania. The series of attacks killed almost 3,000 people. The bell of hope rang at St. Paul's Chapel in New York at 8:48 a.m., the time when the first of two planes hit the World Trade Center Twin Towers. How to live in the conditions of an armed conflict, children told the UATV channel. In a photo exhibition named Schools as Territories of Peaceful Children, the enthusiasts collected photographs of kids living near the contact line. Each artwork tells the story of their struggle for a quiet, peaceful life. More details up next.
If only they stopped shooting, this is the main desire of the kids living near the contact line. Sonia remembers explosions and knows how to behave in such cases. Her whole family lives in Toshkovsky, Luhansk region. She says she will never forget shelling.
It was in 2014. The sky was bright pink. I realized that fighting had begun. When I went outside, I saw two bombs lying on the ground. I asked my mother what it was. She said, I don't know. We spent the entire day inside. There was no light. We all lay on the floor. The windows were shaking. It was terrible. God save everyone from getting through. God save everyone from getting through such things.
The project Schools at the Territory of Peace for Children was launched to show how those who did not leave their homes despite continuous shelling and explosions actually live. Sasha Maslov is the author of photographs. In the East he worked for 3 days, says Dariusz Zitek, director of Save the Children initiative in Ukraine.
The children who live in the conflict zone still experience lots of problems. This area is just in 2.3 kilometers from the contact line. Shelling still continues there. The schools are far from being safe. This is a matter of children's psychological health.
Since the beginning of the armed conflict in the East, more than 750 schools have been damaged or destroyed. Dozens of students and teachers suffered from shelling. It is estimated that 670,000 children got deprived of their right for obtaining education.
A large number of children reside now in the government-controlled area. Unfortunately, today this place cannot be considered a safe one. That is why we are giving the issue of school safety in the highest priority. The safety of education first. And today its problem makes a special concern of the Ukraine's president.
The creators of the project are sure that these pictures will give hope for a better future for a whole generation that does not know what a peaceful childhood is. Inna Mazurkevich, Dmitro Bosch, Kiev, UATV News.
You can meet them in public transport or at shops in the Kherson region. COVID patrols have started their work. Our correspondents joined in one of the raids.
Can we help you? Come closer. We will help you to put on a mask and instruct you.
Police officers are on duty at the entrance to the supermarket. Despite the warning, visitors often enter the place not wearing a mask. The most common excuse is that they just didn't have time to put it on.
Why aren't you wearing a mask? Put it on, please. Can you see Cabinet of Ministers regulation?
They are trying to fix their flop immediately. Those who adhere to the quarantine rules deserve a compliment.
You look great. Thank you.
The so-called COVID patrols have raided the most crowded places in the city. In one team there is a policeman, local officials and the employees of the State Food Control Service. They check out shops, supermarkets and public transport.
Good day. Put on mask, please.
In general, such raids are carried out every day both in the city of Kherson and in the region. We have registered violations at about 50% of facilities that do not comply with the requirements of anti-epidemic measures. Today, also a report was drawn up on a private enterprise.
The most common violations are the absence of temperature screening before the start of a new working day, no masks and absence of disinfectants. In stores they say that they cannot force customers to wear masks.
What can I tell you? They just swear and leave. We have masks on sale, we have a disinfectant. We warn everyone that we've got a mask regime. Personally, we observe it.
Today in Kherson region, one of the lowest infection rates in Ukraine is observed. 538 cases since the beginning of the pandemic. In the city Kherson, only 220 cases of COVID-19 have been recorded. The locals say that's because everyone is relaxed.
People are not afraid of the virus. They don't wear masks. They don't protect themselves. Everybody should protect themselves, of course, but also avoid infecting others.
A total of 28 patrols are now working in the area. Their raids will be carried on a daily basis. According to the police, more than 1,000 protocols have been drawn up since the beginning of quarantine due to violation of public health safety requirements. Yanina Lebedeva, Serhiy Tymchinsky, Kherson, UATV News. That's all what we have for you this hour. More updates on our website, Facebook, Twitter and YouTube pages. Stay safe and good night.